Hey, Becca, welcome to the Flipping Junkie podcast.
Hey, Danny. I'm excited. I don't think my level of excitement can be understated.
Well, that's cool. I'm excited too. I'm glad to finally have you on the show. I had to think, I don't know if you were on the show before, but I guess this is the first time, isn't it?
First time.
That's right. It's going to be a lot
I'm
of
just starting
fun.
to play
Hmm?
with big kids.
What's that?
Just starting to play with the big kids now.
Oh, yeah. Now you're doing awesome. And I already, in the intro part, I talked about your growth in your business over the last year has been incredible. And congratulations on that. It's really cool.
Thank you.
And I know
Yeah.
before the show we were talking a little bit, and you had talked about some of the things to help you with that growth. And one of the things that you do that intrigued me, and that I also do, and I think a lot of successful people do and should do, is affirmations. And
Yeah.
can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Although I'm not sure if we've just been brainwashed by people to do these things, but but whatever. I'm doing it. Any advantage helps, right? So I read The Miracle Morning about a year and a half ago, and my life, business was getting crazy and spiraling out of control a little bit. So I figured I was going to pull it back. I was going to start doing The Miracle Morning. So I wrote these affirmations as part of that. And every morning I just kind of sit down, I read them. So the first one, when I started, you and I talked about this before, but when I started rehabbing, I had a really hard time believing that people that I'd be able to find these houses where I could make money. Like, why would people sell to us? And then also B, where would I find the money to do this? So one of my first affirmation is I believe in the value my business creates in the lives of others.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
go.
And
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I think I was telling you that, like, when I first wrote that, I knew I needed to get to that place. I knew I had to believe in the solution, and I wasn't there to begin with. Um, and now that I've done this, we've flipped quite a few houses and talked with a lot of sellers. Um, we've had some fantastic closings where, just the feedback's been amazing. So,
Yeah, so it's incredible how seeing how much you really do help people out of their situations and giving them an option. And I think some people, like you said, you struggled with it a little bit where you're wondering, like, I've got to offer lower, um, lower than maybe what the property might be worth, but then I've got risk and I've got fix up cost and all this stuff involved, but still, it seems like, kind of hard to see the value that you're providing until you provide that value and see how happy people are that you're
right.
providing that service to them when they maybe don't feel like they have another option, or you're helping them avoid some of these situations that are just embarrassing, right? We help a lot of sellers that don't want even their neighbors to know that they're selling the house,
Yeah,
or
definitely come across that. I mean, I think, for me, having that conversation, and we're very, people will call us and sometimes they're like, oh, is this a scam? Right? That's the first question we always get.
huh,
No, not a scam, but, we'll be upfront with you. You could probably list your house for 140 today. We might be only be able to give you 100 grand. And then we have that conversation of, does this make sense? If you list it at 140, you're probably going to walk away with maybe 125 to 130. So that $25,000 spread, can we provide enough value to you that it makes it worth that equity spread? And what I found is that, yeah, we can, especially with like flexible closing times. And there's a lot of things that we can do as investors to make people's lives easier, that a traditional buyer comes in and they're like, well, my lease ends on the 31st. I want to move in on the 1st, but you don't know where you're going, but I don't care. Like, we care. So,
right. So flexible closing dates, things like offering to you do like lease backs or anything like that where people can stay in the house after they receive some money from the closing so that they can move and have time to deal with all that. And then
yeah.
how quickly can you guys close? Do you also, close very quickly for people?
Yeah, well, we've got one right now. We're trying to close in 2 weeks. It won't be dependent on us. It'll be dependent on the city, whether the city gets all their boxes checked in time, but we can close pretty quick. So, Yeah, I think starting out as a rehabber, like understanding the value you provide, why someone would sell to you, is something you have to internalize and have that conversation and know that you're not the right fit for everyone. So, um,
Yeah, no, totally a mindset thing. And I think seeing other people have success with that and helping sellers, and then when you finally start doing it, you start seeing the other side of it and think, why was I feeling that way or thinking that way before? Like when you have people tell you that that you're the answer to their prayers and everything, and it's a good feeling. So we get to make a little bit of money for the effort, and we do have the risk involved in everything, but you help each other. It works out for everybody. So
yeah.
So what is the next affirmation?
So this one, the success of my fellow investors fuels me with energy and joy.
Nice.
I think every person starting out, like, they read all the literature, they listen to a ton of podcasts, and at some point you hear this story like how so-and-so went from 2 deals a year to 3 million deals a minute,
Right.
in 2 years. And at some point I just I kind of burned out and I kind of shut down. I was like, this is so hard. I kind of resented people for being successful. And then I got past that and I was like, I needed to get into this mindset where other people's success brought me up. It didn't, stress me out. And I'm happy to say that I'm there now.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I can see that. Well, no, it's true. I think a lot of people do struggle with that. And it's either be a little bit jealous of their success or say, hey, they did it. Let me find out how I can do it too by modeling what they did, right?
Right. I mean, that's exactly it.
And so asking the right questions, not how come they had success and I didn't, but how can I learn from their success? I struggled with it too, and I probably still do with certain things where when you hear about people's success, you're not hearing about what they went through to get to that. You're just hearing about the start and finish, not all the in-between. That's really 99.999999999% of it, right?
Yeah. Like Flip Pilot, right? It's just going to come out and be to dominate the market, but no one's going to see the struggle.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All those other software companies, I'm sure. No. Right?
No, that will be.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, really, it's going to be an instant success. That one, there isn't really any struggle. It's just done.
It's just perfect.
Yeah.
And I think that that there is a blueprint that you can follow. I think that that's what I've really seen, is that other successful investors it's not magic. There's not some secret sauce. It really is certain steps. If you follow them consistently, intelligently, you can do it too. So.
No, I agree with that completely, because I think it's easier for us, or for me, I don't know, I can't speak for you, but when what you're trying to do is get more deals, right? And get better deals and more profit. And in order to do that, you've got to find houses to buy, and so you're trying to generate leads. And
right.
It's easier to just go out and say, well, what else can we do? What else can we try that's the new great thing, that's the magic bullet or whatever that's going to bring these great deals to me? And it's easier to just get excited about doing that rather than taking what already works and making sure that it's better. And we just had this talk recently here in the office about trying some things to up our leads to meet our goal for this year, because it's an insane goal, and I know that we can reach it, but it's like, how do you best do it, right? How do you best go about it? And I was reading...
What's your insane goal?
Well, it's 108 deals for this year.
That's awesome.
And we so we're going to do some things, some new lead sources, and we had talked about them, and there were 2, and I was like, well, that's great, we can focus on these 2, add these 2 to what we're already doing to help bring in more and become the best at doing those 2 things. But the very next day I heard talk of all these other things. It's like, here's 5 or 6 other things, and it's like, whoa. Here's the problem. So whenever somebody doesn't have success with something, and I just read this in a book, I think it was the 12-week year book.
Oh, I just got that. I'm so excited to read it. Yeah,
it's been good so far. And I just read this page that morning, and where he talked about whenever there's a failure in something, it didn't work as well as you thought. like greater than 60% of the time, obviously these are like made up statistics because who the heck can know that, right? But they're just saying the majority of
the time it works all the time.
66.23%. So it is a matter of execution, not planning. So more often than not, it's execution, not planning. And so if we just focused on these two things I felt like we should,
Mm-hmm.
It's not just try it once or just do it a little bit and then say, well, it's not really producing, let's add these other things. It's like, let's figure out why. Like, is it the execution? Are we not being persistent enough? And are we not doing it correctly? Can we tweak it? And just kind of focusing on being the best at it. And I think maybe that's where people getting into the business feel like it doesn't work for them, when especially like direct mail and stuff like that.
Right.
Consistency.
And that's the engineers in us, right? Like, I need a big enough data set to, really rule something out. So if you do it once or twice and it doesn't work, is that really a big enough data set to know that it doesn't work? Or was it just the time of the year or the color of the postcard, whatever.
Right.
So, my mantra before my affirmations was just do the basics well. But don't get distracted by 1,000 shiny things. Do the basics well before you move on to something else. So.
Yeah, and that's huge, and I don't think that should be underestimated ever. There's core things that the biggest investors in the country do.
Right.
And they do it because it works. And, it's not that they have some secret thing that nobody else knows about that they're doing. I mean,
yeah,
it's not. I think it's easy for people to think maybe that's the case, but it's really not. So that was the second affirmation. Is there more?
Yeah. I have 6. I'll share at least 4 with you.
Okay.
We talked about this one. My failures have made me a better investor. This is another one that I felt like maybe when I added it to my list, I wasn't so sure about it. And now every morning when I read it, like in my heart, I think, yes, this is true. I've lost money on deals. I've accidentally pissed sellers off through bad communication. I've learned the hard way some things with contractors. But every time something like that happens, it's a learning moment and you can become better from it. So we're really focusing on that one as a team right now.
Yeah, it's often
failure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's like knowing that and growing that's going to happen, right? And that's how you grow. I just reread the book. Have you ever read the book, The Obstacle is the Way?
Mm-mm.
It's sort of like the Stoic
But
philosophy.
I will now.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Stoic philosophy thing, Marcus Aurelius and all of that. Objectivity and focusing on what you can change and not worrying about what you can't change. But then understanding that whenever things happen to you, it's because it's going to lead you to where you want to be. It's like the problem came up because you needed to know how the importance of communicating with sellers like throughout the process and, dealing with contractors so that next time, like, how to do it. And if you never had those problems, you just keep going and, not grow in how to handle all of it. So.
I mean, if you were to look back to when you started and realize all the things you've learned along the way, you could not have learned them all at once. You had to be at a place mentally where you could accept the lesson and, hopefully take it gracefully and move on from it. But there's no way I could have, if I had known all the lessons I would have learned when I started, I wouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. So.
Yeah, especially thinking about them all together, like as if they all happened at once. Like, thankfully they didn't, right?
Yeah. Landmine after another. Right.
No, that one's big too. Okay, so you said 4, and I think you've said 3. So what's the 4th affirmation?
4th, my business is set up for massive success and growth. This is the inevitable outcome of my hard work.
Nice.
This one, a lot of my business over the past year has just been building a foundation underneath of it. And, Bill Allen and I've talked a lot about sustainably growing your business and responsibly growing your business. One day, if you do that thing where you get a deal and you put all that money into marketing and then you don't market for 6 months, like, that's not going to work. So the past year for me has been okay, consistent marketing, slow growth. When I reach this point, add this. When you plateau, go plateau. And I didn't really see any massive results from it. And now I'm starting to see the outcome. So now I read that my business is set up for massive success and growth. And I think, okay, I have done the setup. And then this is the result of my hard work. Like, it was hard. And there were a lot of days that I didn't want to do it. There's still days, where I want to just hit the snooze button. But, it's a good thing. Like, keep working hard. You're doing the right things. You'll make this.
Nice. So doing things for future growth and like you said, building that foundation to where maybe immediately, it's like hiring somebody and training them. Like, you feel like, man, I'm taking time away from getting deals because I'm having to train.
Mm-hmm.
But you're laying the foundation so that you will have more time to do the deals. Yeah. But it's all about working, and I'm going to have to do the shameless plug for the Flip Pilot Facebook group, because that's like what it is, like being a Flip Pilot, working on your business. So if you haven't joined, go to Facebook and search for Flip Pilot.
Flip Pilot.
And join that group, because that's what we're all in there. Are you in the group yet, Becca?
Yeah.
Okay. So Becca's in there.
So come find me. Flip Pilot. Yeah, so those are some of the affirmations I do. The other ones are more related to like personal, life. But those are my business thoughts, and I'm glad to hear it. What's one or two of your affirmations? I'm curious.
You put me on the spot. I wasn't going to share any of that. Well, a lot of it's, personal. It's a mix of the personal and the business. And so, obviously, I kind of do my affirmations more as prayer and prophesying. Mm-hmm. So thanking God for having already accomplished them. So it's like, thank you for helping us build the team necessary to be able to do 108 deals this year, and for us being able to do 108 deals. And then the software stuff like that. So building the best software for real estate investors and having, helping all the other real estate investors to be able to achieve their dreams through the use of the software to help them. You know what I mean? It's like helping people, and thank you for helping us to be able to do that. So, right. Oh. So that's what most of them are. And then the rest is sort of just health and family and spiritual stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I read them and, about the family ones, and it's good, I think, to have the business and the family ones together, because sometimes there's the tension there, right, between business and family. And if you don't put them on the same level, sometimes I'll read it and I'll be like, oh, I'm putting too much emphasis on business right now. I need to pull back into personal. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, I've kind of been slacking. Time to dig back into business. So.
Well, I forgot who said that. Was it Gary Keller and in that book, I think, maybe, about the whole like balance thing? Where you're never like going to be able to do complete balance of the same equal amount for family, spiritual, health, and business. It kind of varies, and it's just making sure that you don't swing too far in one direction before coming back and spending time back in the other one. But it's constantly changing, and everybody has different seasons in their life, and like understanding that. So.
Yeah, seasons of business, and then my husband's now doing a startup. Well, they're starting to gain traction, and so then now I'm pulling back. We're rebalancing a little bit, so just figuring that out.
Well, cool.
Yeah. So you told me in this nice PDF to talk about things that are helping in my business right now.
Did I?
Yeah. I want to. You wrote that PDF like 4 years ago, didn't you? You don't even know what it says anymore.
I didn't even know it was still going out, but yeah, I guess it's like the show prep, right? Like, so just be prepared to talk.
Yeah.
But
I feel like I've been telling this to newer investors all over, and you have to get to a certain point before it resonates. But like this year with the Miracle Morning starting, but also going back to Gary Keller and Keller Williams, like time blocking. I started doing that in January. It's carving out set times for things and protecting them on my schedule, and that has been a huge help. Also, my struggle is to protect them.
No, for sure. So is that part of also? I think I listened, because we probably both started listening to. I don't know if you recommended or just Terry recommended it to both of us, but The Buffini podcast.
Oh, love that podcast. Yeah, Terry. Yeah, you were in the car. Terry recommended it last year, and then I think we were talking about it when we saw each other last. So, yeah, that he's a big fan of time blocking. I mean, it's a kind of standard thing. But then the 12-week year, he's talking about that, and you're setting your goals. Because before I just felt like I was constantly responding to whatever thing just popped up and not necessarily the important things of the day. Like, I have 4 deals closing next week. I have to find money for all of them. But if I just respond to like every little fire.
So how do you do that though? How do you plan it? So it's something that's sort of like a known thing, but how do you actually do that? Do you every Sunday evening plan the week and do the priority stuff or the stuff that's most important in your life at the moment first and block those off?
I was looking to see if I had a printout on my calendar here, but I sat down and I thought long and hard about what were the items in my business that had to be done on a consistent basis. And basically every morning so I do my miracle morning from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, depending on what's going on with the kids that morning. And then from 9 to 12, I time blocked. On like Monday, I do finances. So my bookkeeper runs her reports. I review those. I do a 6-week projection of all the deals we have in the pipeline and make sure that I'm not going to run out of money. And then Tuesdays, I set aside for team. Like we have all our team meetings Tuesday morning. And Wednesday is just like an admin day to clean out my inbox if it's gotten overwhelming. And then Thursday, I try to touch base with my lenders. And Friday, I do marketing. So, cool. Yeah, if I can, it usually only takes me about an hour and a half to do any one of those things, except for the team meetings. But inevitably, little distractions do pop up. So having that 3-hour window is kind of necessary.
Yeah, so it's not like rigid where you feel bad, at the end of each day. Because I still kind of have a problem with that with my planner. I don't have it on my desk right now, but it's like, well, I put an impossible amount of stuff on there every day. And so at the end of every day, instead of feeling like, man, I conquered the world, it's like, oh, I didn't do all this stuff.
Yes.
And so, man, it's like a big struggle always.
I try to write down, I think last fall I bought one of these planners that has, this isn't good because it doesn't show my time blocking, but it's got like, hour by hour each day. And at the bottom, I write all the stuff I want to accomplish. It has a priority level there. I don't listen to that. But it also helped me see in a block where my time was already committed. And so every Sunday night, I sit down and I write out for the week any hard appointments. And, on Monday, I just put all the to-dos and I cross them off. Whatever doesn't get done gets moved to the next day. So, it's not perfect. I still feel like you mentioned the spinning plates. I still feel like I'm the bottleneck. Last year, it was just me and a project manager. And then in June, I hired my first guy who was kind of helping answer the phones, go on appointments. And now there's 6 people who are a part of this. And I just feel like there's never enough of me to go around. I'm sure you feel the same way.
You guys have grown a lot, though, over the last year because of that. Mm-hmm. And like you said, a lot of it's like doing the foundation. You're starting to see the results of that and the benefits of that. I wanted to talk a little bit more about, the funding of all this, because I think a lot of people struggle with how the heck do you pay to scale like that? How are you able to keep, enough money coming in to handle these rehabs and keep everything going?
Yeah, there's a reason why that's the Monday morning task.
Yeah. Before the meetings even. Yeah.
Yeah, before the meetings, before everything. So I think those were my 2 biggest mental blocks when I started were A, how am I going to find these houses at a discount? Do they really exist? And B, how am I going to fund it when I do? So the first property I did, actually I partnered my first property. I had some money, probably enough to fund half a deal. And I went to someone I knew who had some money and we partnered on our first deal. So we split it 50-50. And then that deal went well. And we both decided amicably to split ways and do it on our own, but we still remained great friends. And so then, even with the profit on my first deal plus my initial money, I still didn't have enough to do another deal. So I had to go out and raise. I knew I needed to raise about $50,000 or $60,000, and I figured I knew this even back then, that people don't lend money. They'll lend money based on a deal, but they're really lending money based on you and your credibility. So I put together this letter and I sent it to all my friends and family. I probably sent out like 50 of them. And it just said, you know that I started doing this rehabbing thing. I did my first deal. Here were the numbers on it. I want to do another one. I'm looking to raise money. I'm looking for a minimum of $10,000. I'll give you, can you remember, like I think 12% interest on their money if you let me have it. And the first 5 people that say yes, I'll give you 13%, And I still remember somebody calling me up and being like, did you really just send me a letter asking me for $10,000? Are you crazy?
But did it work out?
It worked.
Yeah.
I raised my money. I used it to do a house. It was secured. So we had to go through this I brought an attorney in and we went through this complicated, set up an LLC that had a security position against the property, which all the 6 lenders were part owner of. And then after that got done, and I was like, okay, great. Moved on to the next one. I just asked, I said, hey, would you be willing to lend me your money long term, like on a year promissory note? It was not going to be secured, but I'll give you a good interest rate, and at the end of the year, you can decide what to do with it. And that was really key. I mean, basically, they were making me a business loan.
Right.
And I still have some of those lenders to this day. They've lent me more money now. And
so before you decided to do that, though, I mean, did you have that doubt that, like, why would anybody do that for me? Or, I mean, did that cross your mind, or did you just think, well, I'm going to try it? I don't know. And then it just,
of doubt.
What's that?
Lots of doubt.
Yeah. But you just did it anyway, just to see, right? I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, I think I had I'd read somewhere about, people around you have more money than you probably think. And they don't really know what to do with it. They're so busy with their lives, they might not know what to do with it. So I figured, I was an engineer. I knew some people had some money. And I also knew, this won't apply to everybody, but I knew that if this house flipping thing tanked and for some reason I lost all $60,000, that I could go back and get another engineering job and I could pay them back in a year, So there was kind of that backup plan. But luckily that didn't happen. I paid some of them back, and some of them let me keep their money.
Nice. And so with you ramping up the business, did you start reaching out to people that were already lending to other investors, or had bigger amounts that they could lend?
I did. And then, sorry, I read Susan Lassiter-Lyon's book, Getting the Money. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read that.
I read it last January. It was recommended to me by another investor, and it changed the way that I approached getting money. It was like a mindset shift. As Bill says, I'm the prize.
Yeah.
Once you start getting credibility and doing what you say you're going to do repeatedly, right? Kind of building up that social credit, it gets a lot easier. And so, I've used hard money in the past, which is great. If I'm going to do a deal and maybe it's a $30,000 profit and I have to give 10 or 12,000 of that to a hard money lender, but otherwise I wouldn't do the deal, then it makes sense. But they have a lot of hoops to jump through. So I just started having the conversation after that book, of reaching out to people and just saying, here's what I do. If you're interested in hearing more, like, here's my last lender made, $7,000 on this house. Are you interested in something like that? Do you have lazy money sitting around? And so now anyone who shows interest to me, we have a first conversation. I send them this lender credibility packet that talks about my company, what we do, has some examples of some deals we've done. And then I kind of nurture that relationship. When they're ready, and when I have a deal available, then I'll send out an email and they'll say kind of, here's the deal coming up. Are you interested? And it's worked
Nice.
great.
And you were kind enough to send me that credibility packet that you send out.
I'm very proud of it. So
Yeah, and it's very cool. I don't know, it's like, what, 6 pages, seven pages maybe? So you have to go to YouTube and watch the video to see each of them? No, I'm going to put it on the show notes page.
There are before and after pictures in there, which is what everyone really wants to see. So
That's true. And then you've got your pictures, it looks like, of your team. And yeah, it shows some of the numbers from those deals. This is incredible. So it's going to be on the show notes page at flippingjunkie.com/87. flippingjunkie.com/87. You can download that. And then you also have the lender letter that you send out for
Oh, that was my first. Yep, I sent over the first letter I sent to lenders after my first deal. So if you're just getting started, that's a good one, to help build your credibility and send out to friends and family. And then as you start to get bigger,
But
I was so cute back then.
But we should also recommend everybody, have these checked out, before you send them out, because there are sort of, there's securities things, right, and things like that about, requesting money. Do you know any of those rules that you got to be careful for?
Yeah, the one is I don't blast. If I have a deal that needs funding, I won't blast it out there. I try to build those relationships beforehand. You can't just walk up to somebody on the street and be like, I need $100,000 to buy this house, because that's solicitation. You can't walk up to people on the street and, do all kinds of things. It's considered solicitation.
Yeah.
So I like to put it out there and just kind of say, here's, tell them the story. Here's what I'm doing. And I'll need access to capital at some point. If you're interested in being part of this journey, give me a call and we can talk about what that might look like in the future, because then you've established the relationship, and so you're not soliciting them. They've shown an interest in lending.
Yeah, that's good. And you can also share numbers from previous ones, like, Mr. X lent this amount of money and I was able to pay him this much, because that's not soliciting. You're just telling them what you've done in the past.
It's a fact.
Yeah. Statements of fact.
Yeah.
So that's important to be careful of. And so how many lenders would you say you work with right now, with how many you guys are doing?
So we probably have about, I don't even know how many deals we have going right now, 8, 10 deals. And I probably have to date it a little bit, I probably have a Rolodex of about 30 people who've shown interest at some point in lending. So I try to touch base with them frequently, kind of tell them where we're at, what we're doing. And then when a deal comes up that fits their criteria, like someone may say, I have $100,000 to lend. And I'm like, okay, great. So I know that if I have a $200,000 house I need to purchase and I need to find funding for the whole thing, I need to probably find somebody else. Or trying to think if any of them have any unique criteria. But also some of them will say, I've had people who've come to me and said, hey, I'm buying a house next year. We have set $100,000 aside for a down payment. And we know we're going to buy our house sometime in February. Can you use this money between now and then and pay us interest on it? And those won't be secured to a property, but maybe it's 6 months, 7 months. Instead of that money just sitting in the bank account waiting for closing, it's with me, it's working, it's making interest. And that has seemed to work out really well for all parties. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so most of this has all sort of been word of mouth, and you just reaching out to friends, family, and that kind of thing. Cool.
Tell people what you're doing. Tell them what you need. I think in all things in life, people actually really want to help you succeed if you're a nice person. And I have gotten much better in the past year or two at asking for what I need. Asking, saying, hey, this is the thing that I'm having trouble with right now. Can anybody help me with it? Inevitably, somebody comes up and is like, hey, I can help you, or I got a friend, you should talk to them. So that's my other give.
Networking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really, really big. Yeah, because you never know, when talk to somebody and just even an idea or somebody for you to talk to, maybe they don't know how to help you, but they know somebody that's been through the same thing recently and they talk to you about it. But Just
Yeah.
like you shared, with the software stuff, one of your friends that had gone through, a start, like setting up a startup and running that and being successful,
Right.
and you put us on a call. And so I thought that was really cool and helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, right. I mean, and I think there's a lot of power in just connecting people. You don't expect stuff in return, but hopefully somebody will return the favor to you someday when you need it. So good karma.
Yeah. Well, and it's just setting up things the right way. And when we started this conversation, you talked about, helping sellers. And at first you were wondering, am I really helping? Like, how's this, I'm trying to make a profit, and am I helping? And then you come around to where, like, it really is, and you're striving to help more and more sellers. And I talked with somebody just the other day, Grayson, who works with us, and we were talking about that exact thing, and finding what true success is, and a true success is helping people. And a lot of people do go into it with, wanting to help provide for their family and things like that. And it's fine, but you find that you start to really find true success when you turn it around and realize that what you're doing is helping people, and that's what you strive to do. And then success comes with it. And so I just want to throw that out. It seems like what you're doing, and it's big.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. That, I've been not struggling, but I've been mulling over the thought of, like, what's the point? What's my purpose here? Once all your financial needs are met, what is your purpose? And I keep coming back to the thing that I think it's relationships. That relationships are what matter. And so if that's my belief, then helping other people, solve whatever their problems are is then my driving force. So. And also not yelling at my kids as much.
Yeah, it can be trying.
I heard your daughter locked herself in her bedroom the other day. So.
Yeah, Melissa took the doorknob off. It's still off, and in fact, before
you get no doorknob.
Right, and so before I came back to the office to do this interview, I was actually at my house real quick around lunchtime. And the kids were there and playing in her room, and they've created a huge tent. Their older sister's there, and she created this huge tent inside of the room. There's like a teepee in there, and they've got the sheets coming off of it, and it's like the movie theater underneath. Very cool. But they wouldn't let me in. They were trying to hide from me, and then they wouldn't let me in. She was just holding the door, and so I stayed out, and I just looked through that little hole where the doorknob used to be, and she was looking right at me, and then she blew. Like, but there was like a bunch of the wood pieces and stuff in there still that just all went right into my eye.
And I'm sure you didn't yell then. I'm sure you were like, "Oh, honey."
Exactly. That's the way I am. I was like, "Oh, it's fine. My eye's bleeding, but that's okay." She didn't mean any harm by it. I really didn't get mad at her, but well, I mean, maybe just a little bit.
So say, man, you're amazing if you didn't.
No, so that
I'm
was
Irish, though. I have a temper to control, so.
Yeah, well, Melissa's usually the one spending, a lot more of the time watching them, so I think her fuse is a little bit shorter than mine.
Yeah.
But she's been awesome with managing the flipping business and, the family and everything, so it's been really cool. And she's been on more podcasts with me, and she's actually going to be on Peely and Jason's podcast, believe it or not.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah, so very cool.
I'd start a podcast, but that market seems saturated, so.
I thought it was just mine and a couple other of my friends' podcasts, and that's all. I don't check.
There's like 3. The Flipping Junkie, Brian Buffini, and Planet Money. That's it.
I haven't checked out the Planet Money one. I'll have to check that one out. You do have your blog, though.
I do have a blog. So I was inspired by your blog. I have to do this plug, right? That the story gets old after a while, but you're the reason that I got into flipping because you wrote your blog, detailing all your numbers, your leads, and being an analytical person, I was like, oh, okay, this is, you lifted up the hood and I got to look inside, right? And when I saw that, I was like, okay, this isn't magic. This is a numbers thing. I can do this. So I was so inspired by your blog that I decided to chronicle my journey in the hopes that someday maybe it would help somebody else, right? Pay it forward, back, whatever. So yeah, I have a blog that now these days it's mostly kind of business related, but in the beginning it was like the nuts and bolts of I saw this property, here's my numbers. So
Well, that's very cool. But I think everybody listening right now is like, what is the blog?
sorry. I'm really not good at like promo. It's called lateDaySun.blogspot.com, I think. My favorite color is yellow, and Late Day Sun is a particular shade of paint that I think is just beautiful. So that's how it got the name. And yeah, I'm wearing a yellow shirt. You can see it's obviously my favorite.
I just keep looking at the three little pigs picture in the background. It's a very well done piece of work.
Budding artistes in my family.
It's nice.
They're not going to be engineers. They're probably going to be like actresses.
Yeah, let's see. So lateDaySun.blogspot.com, and I'll put that in the show notes page also, flippingjunkie.com/87, so that people can go check it out and read it. And there's a really good write-up in there. One of the blog posts I really enjoyed because it was all about flipping junkie and how flipping junkie.
I wrote a blog last night about being on the podcast today and how excited I was.
Well, now I need to go check it out. I'm going to go check it out.
So that's on there. And it basically was like, how did I get to this point? How did I get to the point where I was reading this guy's blog to now I'm in the same arena as him and being interviewed? It was very meta.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's awesome. In such a short period of time, too.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels really long and sometimes it feels really fast. So it's like kids, I guess. The shortest, shortest time.
Yeah. But if you just keep at it, and before you know it, you're here and having success and growing quickly, and it's very cool.
Yeah. One of my other life goals, part of my meditation thing, is like to bring my employees to success levels that they couldn't achieve anywhere else. And I mean, that's my goal. And then, I don't know how big my company will get to be. Maybe it'll just stay the 6 of us or just 6 people. But like, I want them to look back at some point and say, I'm so glad I joined her team. I can't believe what I've accomplished. And so let's see in 4 or 5 years if that's the case.
Well, see, now I know you're going to be absolutely a huge success because no, seriously though, because like the reason why and the goal, like you mentioned, is to help the people around you. And that's what makes true success, like we talked about just a little bit ago. So very, very nice.
Thanks. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna just wrap it up. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to everybody listening, or any piece of wisdom?
Sometimes it's better not to know the journey that you're on, to set out and do it, and enjoy every step of the way as much as you can. But that's it. Just do it. There's no magic sauce. If you're committed to it, you can make it happen too.
Great. Couldn't have said it better.
Yes.
All right, Becca, well, thank you for... What's that?
Thank you. I'm so excited that I got to be on this podcast. If I could only frame a podcast and put it on my wall.
Well, you could print out a screen grab from the video.
Excellent.
I don't know. Have you seen the mail? Like, there's direct mail where you can pay, I don't know how much it is, but you can actually pay to have direct mail with a video. Like, it's got a little screen on it. And you can play like a
stuff.
4-minute video on it.
This is awesome. The moving picture.
Oh wait, we just shared the secret thing that we're doing to get all of our deals that nobody knows about.
Oh man, people should put all their money into that. Yeah, right now.
Now we haven't really tried that, but if somebody does, let me know how it works out. I don't know if the cost. Maybe if it's a highly targeted list, it makes sense. But you might just freak people out. It's like
I was gonna say I would be creeped down about that actually. Like, you don't want to be too much up in people's business. You just want to, like, knock on their door. You don't want to just bust into their house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Battering around. Hey, heard you were facing some troubles. Yeah. But, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Becca.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Danny. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Talk to you soon.